Hi, this is Susan Proper with Thrive Beyond Burnout Speaker Summit. Thanks again for being here with us today. We are going to be talking with a guest who is from Michigan, and her name is Jamie Lightner. Jamie is a life coach who helps people find where the hole is in their bucket. And when she and I first spoke, I thought that was a really cool way of talking about finding out kind of like why things are missing in your life. So welcome, Jamie. Before we start talking with Jamie, I just want to give you her bio because it's very interesting. Jamie is a life coach certified through Turning Leaf Health and Wellness. And she has a bachelor's in social work. And that's really interesting too, because that gives you a really cool perspective on how to help people who are struggling. I think that's very, very interesting and important. She's co-author of Two Sisters Misguided Manual to Motherhood. Wow. And the co-founder of the female self-love movement, Girl, I Got You. And I am a member of that, although I have to confess, I haven't been the best participant, but I am a member of that. For the past 12 years, Jamie has enjoyed working with clients personally and in group workshops. She also loves her involvement in the local school systems, doing character ed workshops. I need to find out what that is, helping middle school students build their own self-confidence and moral compass. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Susan, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure. And I'm so glad that you are here with us today. And I appreciate you taking time out from your vacation. And you are in sunny Orlando, my territory. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
So when we first met, we talked about a lot of things.
We did.
In our first little chat. And, you know, I really liked our first conversation because you talked a lot about the whys and the why nots and self-value and self-worth and why high achievers do what they do and how that can lead to burnout and you know why don't you talk a little bit about what self-worth and self-identity kind of means to high achievers?
Well, to high achievers, a lot of times they are getting their self-worth and identity, quite frankly, from what they're achieving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the thing. There's a difference between believing that you can and then believing you're enough.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a high achiever and you're like, yeah, I can run this company, or I can, sell this many pieces of this product, and I can speak at this event, because you have the confidence in your abilities, but you don't have self-worth, then you're constantly chasing that achievement to be somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can't let that go. So then you're not driven out of passion, you're driven out of obligation. Because now you can't just be you and share your message with the world. Now you have to keep up with the Joneses, per se. You have to keep that level of success. Otherwise, who are you? Because you don't get your value internally. You get your value by plugging into the external world, which is really what I deal with my clients on. It's so easy to plug into that external world to decide our worth and value, to decide who we are, to create that identity for ourselves. And when we do that, now we need those external pieces of the world to be who we are, to be okay with who we are. So if life happens and, the pandemic had to really shake a few people up because, and all of a sudden what they do to feel their self-worth isn't there anymore, who are they?
Right.
And so the idea is, and what I work with people on, is finding that internal self-worth so that when you go out into the world, you're sharing you. You're not chasing an idea of you.
How do we, and I don't know, you have a much more interesting background as far as getting into social work. How do we as women, I'm going to talk about women here. How do we get into that psychology, that mode of, I need to be that way. It's like a self comparison thing, or what is it? Why do we get into chasing that?
Well, I think culturally speaking, we're kind of taught to seek out our life's purpose, to seek out our mission, to
Mm,
seek out that identity. We're not taught to find it within us. And I really, more and more growing, I mean, even just from the day I became a life coach till now, my perception and my philosophies have changed. But I'm coming to a place where self-identity and self-worth is a choice.
yeah.
That's what it's not something you go and find. It's not something you go and prove, but culturally, that's what we've been programmed to do. Not that someone's been standing over our shoulder saying this is what you have to do to be somebody, but we see people, we watch people, and it becomes easy to use comparison as a way to define who we are and whether we're okay or not.
Mm-hmm.
And comparison works great because there's always somebody you can, if you stand next to someone you feel better than, then you feel okay.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be someone who you can label that has better than you, or you can label that has it worse. That's not a good way to define yourself.
Right.
I love to use when I work with students, I use the analogy of a cell phone charger. And I pull two kids in front of the room, and I have one person hold the charger and one of those portable chargers, and I have one person hold the cell phone with their cord. And I'm like, if you have to plug into someone else to be okay, then you're always going to need them to decide who you are. So if you're using comparison to decide who you are and define if you're okay and to decide if you're successful or a failure, then you're always going to be plugged in to somebody else. And that cord is only so long. So you don't run your own life. They do.
Wow. That's really a fantastic way to prove that to somebody and show them what that really means.
It worked great with the teenagers because, they say they want to run their own life, yet they're always plugging into everybody else. And so then they're tied to them. They're not running their own life. They're jumping through hoops to be valued.
Yeah. And really, when you think about that, it even starts before you're a teenager, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think so. I think little by little, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
If you go way back, you might remember a time where you don't remember thinking about what other people thought of you. But little by little, as that innocent fades and we start tapping into the external world, then we start seeing how, we start seeing how good it feels to have someone like you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that feels good. And so it's easy to get drawn out and be like, ooh, okay. So if so-and-so likes me, that feels good. So I'm okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then, it's a chain reaction from there.
Right.
As we piece by piece give ourself and our identity and our worth and our value over to the world.
So how do people then, or again, how do we get off of this comparison game? How do we switch? How do we make that transition from always having to be better than we are or like somebody else? How do we get off of that hamster wheel of comparison?
Well, the first question I would say is you have to want to. You have to dare to want to. A lot of times that hamster wheel gets comfortable. I know it sounds like an oxymoron because you're like, well, who wants to run on the hamster wheel? That's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But we are, as human beings, we've been brought up in a world of comparison. We're used to that world. We're used to that game. We're not used to the game of stepping off the wheel, choosing to value ourselves, choosing to let our opinion be something that's worth something. That scares us half to death.
Yeah.
So then I would say, if you want to get off the wheel, ask yourself, am I willing to get uncomfortable? And then if you're willing to get uncomfortable, number one, let your opinion be the one that matters most. Unplug that charger and start plugging into you. Self-worth, self-value is a choice. Make the choice. Don't wait for you to feel like you're enough. Make the choice to be enough. Let your opinion matter. Number two, you have to let go of that need for approval. We've got to stop chasing it. And as we value ourselves, that becomes possible. Mm-hmm. But it all goes back to that initial choice. And we have to be able to do it when the music's not playing. Can I just talk about Disney's Moana for a minute?
Yeah, you can talk about anything you want.
That has the best depiction of self-worth, I think. Because I always say, when you're watching a movie and that music starts playing, you're like, okay, she's got it now. Now she's going to win the race, or now she's going to make the jump, because that music plays. And I'm always like, man, if I had music in life, I'd be like, okay, now it's time for me to take that risk, because my winning music's playing, so I'm going to win, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you haven't seen Moana, go see it. But if you have, there's this scene where she is on a life raft, or her canoe, in the middle of the ocean. Nothing's around. Maui's left her, the water, they've been beaten by Taka, and she's having this moment of, I'm done, I quit. I know the ocean chose me, but I quit. And so she has this moment with her grandmother, where her grandmother says, "Who are you?" And that's the question we all need to ask ourselves, is who are you? And she finally starts to have this moment. The music's playing. She's like, I'm this girl, I'm that girl. The ocean chose, like, she's feeling her confidence. She's feeling her mission. She's feeling her self-worth. She dives down in the ocean to grab the heart of Tafiti, that she threw in there in desperation, or, letting go and giving up. She dives down, she grabs it. She pops through the water, and the music's gone. She's sopping wet. The music's gone. And she's on a boat with a torn sail in the middle of the ocean. And she takes that breath, and you can just see her like, okay, this does not look good for me, but first thing first, I'm going to fix my sail. And so she just starts sewing her sail back up, and she moves on. And I think it's choosing to value you in the moments that the music isn't playing, in the moments when you feel like you can't, in the moments that nobody's telling you how great you are. It's that choice first that gives you the ability to make the next choices of getting off that hamster wheel.
Wow. That's pretty profound. I know Disney movies. Yeah, but Disney movies always have meanings, right? They always do. I mean, from the Little Mermaid all the way up, right? They always have some kind of moral or meaning to them. Yeah. So, but that's interesting. And I haven't seen that movie, so I guess I need to check it out.
Oh, go watch it. It's great.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, all right, I'm going to make the hamster wheel burn out.
Yes.
Okay. So the hamster wheel is now burnout. It's not comparison. It's not self-worth or value. That the hamster wheel is burnout. And we are on the hamster wheel of burnout. And I know part of burnout is comparison and keeping up with, X, Y, and Z. But burnout is a lot more than just that. Yeah. It's so much more. What do you recommend if you are on the hamster wheel of burnout?
Well, that burnout piece really comes back to that bucket analogy. When we talked before about filling that bucket, most people will tell you active self-care will keep you from burnout, right? Yeah. Take the time for you, nourish you, fill you up, and then you stay passionate. But what I'm saying, and I'm going to repeat myself, is it still goes back to you valuing you. If you don't value you, if you don't make that choice first, then all that self-care you're doing to try to avoid burnout, it really is like filling up a bucket with a hole in it. You get burned out because you may start off in passion because you see your gift. But then again, you achieve. And so then you need to achieve to be somebody. And so then you're going and you're constantly chasing. You're constantly chasing who you are. That burnout comes from having to give and give and give. And not only are you not taking care of yourself, but I would be willing to bet you're probably cutting the legs out from underneath yourself. Self-talk alone, I could do a whole workshop on self-talk. I actually do a whole workshop on self-talk, but self-talk alone, it's like, I love to tell people, can you imagine if a boxer, before he went into, his match, he stood in front of the mirror and gave him a few right hooks and a few sucker punches. It was like, all right, I'm preparing you for your match. This is how we're preparing ourselves. He just beat the crap out of himself.
Yeah.
He wouldn't fare so well in his boxing match.
Right.
But, we get on this hamster wheel, we chase this career, we chase these achievements, we chase even the so-called be a good person. A lot of times we get wrapped up in that mission of helping people. And well, help people, do good for others, it'll fill your bucket. Not if you have a hole in it, right? if you're helping people to feel good about you, then it's not going to fulfill you. It's not going to work. And my mentor, Dean Nixon, if I can just quote him, and it's a great question. If you leave with nothing else I say, here's a question for you. And this will help you with all avenues of it. But do I do what I do to be of value, or because I am of value? And so when you're doing things and you're starting to realize, well, if I don't do this, I feel not enough, then you're chasing something to be of value, and you will get burned out. You cannot do that forever, because you run out. And then you might, if you're chasing something to be of value and you're like, oh, I better go get a massage, I need some self-care because I feel all worn out. Well, that massage is going to feel good for about 45 minutes. And then you're going to walk out of the massage and you're going to be like, oh, dang it, I'm still tired. I'm still empty. Well, yeah, because you don't see who you are, and you're not operating from who you are. You're operating, chasing, trying to be somebody. That's an empty road. That's a tiring road. You will never, if you are looking outside of yourself to measure up, you will never measure up.
So how do you fix that hole in the bucket?
That takes grit. And it goes right back to, I know I keep repeating myself, but the foundation of it all really goes back to you valuing you. And that can be a tough concept to understand. Like, well, how do I value myself? What does that look like? And my best way to really describe that goes to parents. And I ask them, when your child is born, what do they have to do to be worthy of your love? What do they have to do to be enough? Nothing. When your child is born, you are amazed at the miracle of life that has been had. They are a miracle right in your arms. And it's like somewhere along the way, we forget, we all came into the world the same way. We all came into the world as a miracle of life. Somewhere along the way, we learned that wasn't enough. We had to start proving ourselves. So really, to patch that hole in the bucket is to choose what you're going to believe when that music's not going. It's like, it's got to be a part of your value system. You either are going to choose to value you or you won't. And it's like, that's like the best, worst news ever. Because like, you're like, oh, wait, all I got to do is make a choice? You mean so-and-so can't tell me, and I don't need to climb the mountain to so-and-so to figure it out, and I don't got to go over to Tibet and figure it out over there? What? It's just a choice? That's easy. It's just me. And then you're like, oh my gosh, it's just me. Wait, where's the button? Let me climb the mountain. Let me go to Tibet. That's way easier. Way easier.
It sounds easier.
So it really does. I just did a workshop a little while ago. It's called Dare to Fly. And I encouraged women to strap on a pair of wings. And I mean some kick butt wings. And when you say choose to value you, it sounds flowery. Oh, choose to value you. Let's all join hands and sing. But choosing to value you takes grit. You have got to strap on a pair of hefty wings and choose. Choose to be enough. Choose to be enough today.
You're right. I would think that is difficult, like almost 24 hours a day, except for the time you're not sleeping. And sometimes it can even be when you're sleeping, because your dreams can release so much. We all have this negative self-talk.
Yes.
I call it my itty bitty shitty committee that is in my head.
I love that.
And it's just there all the time, and I do my best to try to keep that thing in the closet with the door shut. But it still rears its ugly head that, those people talking there, and there's a president and a CEO and a COO, and they're all going, blah, 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 blah. And they're saying things that make me feel sometimes like I don't have self-worth, or I don't have value that I really know deep in my heart that I should have, and I do have, and that I am valuable. But we all have that, right?
Yes.
And it becomes a matter of, everybody talks about it, mindset and manifestation and self-talk, but it's so difficult.
It is.
Isn't it?
It is. And I think, there are a couple pieces. There's a part of it is practice, right? A lot of times as human beings, like, oh, I'm not going to talk bad about myself all day. Okay, well, way to aim high, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it becomes really, there are times in our lives that it's harder than others. So let's back the train up and let's go, okay, let's take it one moment at a time. Right. And then the other piece is, it's a practice. It's like, you don't go read the manual on how to ride the two-wheeler and then go ride the two-wheeler without falling down. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, when you fall off your bike, you're not like, oh, well, I can't ride a bike, I quit. Or you don't beat yourself up. Like everybody knows learning how to ride a bike takes practice. So we don't get up in our head about it. And so same thing with self-talk is, rather than, it's almost like, so our self-talk, we say, I'm not going to talk bad about myself. Then the committee starts talking, and then we start talking bad about the fact that we let the committee talk. Right. So now we're talking bad about ourselves, why we don't talk, or why we're talking bad about ourselves. And it's just like this. Okay, now we're running in circles. And so it's about being okay with it, having some sort of acceptance of the practice. It's not all or nothing. Mm-hmm. And then the other piece is to take the dare. That's why I have the series Dare to Fly, is in that moment of, okay, I can either get, upset because I've let my committee run the ropes for a minute, or I can take the dare to say, you know what, the committee's saying this, and I can't shut it up right now, but I'm going to choose to believe that that's not true. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to choose to believe in this one for the next hour. And we're just going to run with it and we're going to see how it goes. And we start practicing it. And that's really what, I work with my clients a lot on negative self-talk, because it's not something you're like, you go to the workshop. Oh, what? I'm not supposed to talk bad about myself? Oh, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to go home and fix that.
Yeah.
I've been at this for 10 years now, and that's my biggest hang up. Mm-hmm. And so, I work with clients on those little exercises. Okay, let's take a step back and let it be okay that it happens. Stop beating ourselves up for beating ourselves up.
All right.
And then take the risk to go, okay, this is what this voice says. But I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to bet that it's not true. I'm going to bet on this voice, because we've got both voices, right? Anybody who's got this yammering in our head, we got the other one too that's like, wait a minute, wait a tick. I think I believe something else about myself, but this one's so loud I can't hear it.
Right.
And so it's about taking that risk to believe in that moment.
Right.
And, really quick, if I can just touch on acceptance, a lot of what helps us through things is that piece of acceptance. Mm-hmm. And I have struggled with self-acceptance for a long time, much too long, I think, as far as being a life coach and being trained and all this stuff. I'm like, why am I still struggling with this? This is ridiculous. And I started realizing that my view of self-acceptance was a little skewed. And I was looking at self-acceptance. It almost felt like, that saying that's like, second place is the first loser, like that competitive saying that's out there.
Yeah.
And I always felt like self-acceptance was like, oh, you wanted to be superhuman and you're only human, so you didn't really measure up, but it's okay. Like acceptance almost felt like a consolation prize. I actually have a meme that says, acceptance doesn't mean it's okay to suck. Like that's just kind of how I thought, oh, well, I got to accept that I'm not good enough. And it's like, no wonder I don't want to grab onto acceptance. It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is. Acceptance is just looking at yourself without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when that baby who's learning how to walk stumbles and falls, we don't look at it and go, well, you're a screw up. We know they're going to get it. And so
Right.
acceptance is looking at those pieces and letting them be okay. And even appreciating what they're teaching us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, acceptance is not a consolation prize, and acceptance really, really helps combat that negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it gives you that moment.
Right. So I'm going to try to like bring this around. So if we value ourselves and try to get rid of that itty bitty shitty committee, maybe hourly or however momentarily we try to do this, this all helps us, to use your little term here, helps us fill that hole in the bucket, which then could help us on this way to getting out of burnout or getting off the edge of burnout, manage burnout or whatever. I'm just trying to, lead us in the direction of, some of the listeners today are there already, or maybe think they might be headed that way. And I just want to put it all into the perspective of the best way to step back from wherever they may be, or you may be, whoever's listening right now, to help you stop being that hamster on the wheel, is to take a breath, step back, and not being so harsh on yourself, really, and not trying to be the superwoman and do it all, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're heading towards burnout, or you are in burnout, for sure, take a breath. And then that choice first to value you, that's where it starts. But then we build on that. So when we start choosing to value ourselves first, then we start tackling negative self-talk.
Mm.
And we're more successful at it, not constantly. Again, it's a practice. But we start having the courage and the strength to battle negative self-talk. We start doing things that do fill our bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when it comes, the trouble with burnout is when you've gotten to burnout, you've run yourself so empty that now you don't want the journey back. You want an antibiotic, right? You want the superpower potion that's like, okay, I'll do it right from now on, but just fix me today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as you start taking those steps, you've got to be okay with the process back. Because if you're not, then again, you're just, that hole in your bucket continues, right? If you're like, oh, I should be better by now. Oh, I should have walked myself out of this by now. Oh, I should feel,
Yeah.
Then we're defeating the purpose. So give yourself permission too, to have the journey back. Know that getting off the hamster wheel, it takes a minute. I mean, even if you full force jump off, you're going to tumble and roll for a sec.
Right.
And so, give yourself that, and that's self-value too. Give yourself a minute to be on this journey back.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start making those little choices, then it ripples out. And that's what's amazing about making that choice to value you, is you really start making the choice to value you. Everything ripples out from there.
Mm-hmm.
Because now if you value you, and then you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I making this choice?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now it's not, to climb the top of the ladder. Now it's because that's what you want to do. It's like, hey, you know what? This is what I'm passionate about, and I've invested in myself, and I feel good about it, and it's good for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When people are doing what they're passionate about and they value themselves at the same time, it's fulfilling.
Right.
And that's the difference between burnout and passion, right? Like,
yeah.
One is an obligation to be somebody, and the other is following who you are.
Right. And when I, I would think that a person, well, I can think of myself when I was in burnout, you put yourself last.
Yes.
You
And
put
that's
your,
a word. Yeah.
yeah, you put
Because you
yourself
value
last.
everybody else's opinion more than yours.
Yeah.
You value that identity more than you value your own health.
Mm.
And that's why, like, if you can't say to yourself, I am enough,
Mm.
then we need to have a conversation,
Right.
because you're going to be empty. And because enough, we're always waiting to be enough. That's why, like, those questions, well, how do you find your self-worth? Well, that's, you don't go looking for self-worth. If we wait till we feel enough, if we wait for the music to play and tell us that we're that good person, we're okay, you can do it now, okay, you're somebody, you just never get there.
Right.
Because, it's external, and it just never, it's like chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
You never get there.
Right. Yeah.
So
I just want to take a little bit of a pause here and give everybody your contact information. You are on LinkedIn as Jamie Lightner, but this will also be in the notes with your video. On Instagram as Jamie Lightner LC, correct?
yes.
And Facebook is Jamie Lightner Life Coach.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah. Okay, I
Yes.
got that. So people can know how to get in touch with you. And I want to just come back around a little bit more with burnout, because obviously that's our focus. But I know that a lot of people talk about me being a yoga teacher and a life coach also. A lot of people talk about, there's a lot of woo-woo ways to coach people, with meditation and breath work, and some people think that that's, not necessarily. Some people think it's woo-woo. I'm just going to say that. And then
Okay.
there are some people that are more think it's more like, oh no, you have to be more into the science-based part of it. And I look at it as it's both. I look at it as it's both. It's both what happens to you physiologically and spiritually and emotionally. And it's a combination of everything that is going on in your body and your brain, your mind, your emotions, everything. I think it's all connected. And I really think that as a whole entity, your I don't know, your being gets burned out, and your being needs to go through a process to find relief from burnout. And so, when you talked about this, the wings, what is it called?
Here to fly.
Yeah, dare to fly, and putting on wings. Okay, I may be envisioning it entirely different than from what the program really is, but speaking as a yoga teacher, I'm like, oh, I can envision that so beautifully, and what that program must be like spiritually and emotionally, and how that could work so well for a person in burnout. And every single person, I'm kind of like going on a stream of consciousness here, but every single person that I have interviewed for this not telesummit, for the speaker summit, has talked about breath work. Everybody, and even you said it, take a breath. Take a breath. Everybody has said, take a breath. So it's just, it's empowering to me as a yoga teacher and life coach to recognize and hear all of the other speakers in this summit saying breath, take a breath. And some of them are even describing different breath work that they use with their clients, the square, or different techniques that some people may think of as woo-woo, but the breath, my God, the breath oxygenates your blood, your brain, everything. I think I lost your picture, Jamie, but there you
Sorry.
are. It's okay. So it's wonderful that, to me, life coaches, whether they're looking at it from a neuroscience perspective or from an alternative perspective, see that significance. Yeah, I don't know.
I
That's
love
my.
that you're saying that, and I think it's kind of funny that you use the words woo woo, because I know that's a buzz around. But when did breathing become woo woo?
I know.
It's breathing, and
Yeah.
it's funny. I read in a magazine one time, it said, "Have you remembered to breathe today?" And I thought, well, duh, you can't
Mm-hmm.
forget to breathe. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to breathe. But in that moment, I realized, how often we actually hold our breath.
Yes.
It's crazy. And when I feel like that, I love Take a Breath because it makes me pause. It makes me let go of the human doing, as I said before, how we do to be somebody, and remember I'm a human being. That moment of getting out of your mind and achievement mode and got to live up to mode, and just when I take a breath, I'm okay for that split second.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny, like, that you say woo woo, because you gotta breathe. I
You
mean,
do have to
breathing
breathe.
is, and so it's funny that that's become a woo woo thing. But I mean, yeah, you're talking about controlling your breath and doing your breathing patterns, but essentially all you're doing is slowing your brain down. You're
Right.
getting, essentially, you're just trying to get your mind to stop running around that hamster wheel.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's so beneficial for your nervous system. And yeah, but it's true. Many people hold their breath, and we all take such shallow breaths during the
Right.
day. Yeah. We hardly completely fill our lungs, So yeah, anyway, it was just it just occurred to me when you said, take a breath.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's another pattern coming here with the breath. Yeah, it's interesting. So,
Yeah.
is there anything else that you want to talk about, Jamie? I know you have a promotional piece that you wanted to talk about.
Well, I wanted to put out there that as a promotional, I do a 30-minute taking flight call, like just a discovery call of, let's let you get to know me, find out if I'm someone you connect with. I think when it comes to working with a life coach, you need someone you feel comfortable with and that you have that connection with. It just makes the process so much better. So I like to give people that chance to know me off paper. And also it gives us a chance to look at what your struggles are and what your goal is. And that way I can tell you, number one, if what I teach and what I do is your best course of action, and also what that would look like, what I have available. I have a few different series. I have the Dare to Fly series, which is personal. It's personal coaching and group coaching, depending on how you sign up for it. I have the Ground Them for Life series, which is a parenting series. I also have a coping skills series. So I have many different avenues we can take, but let's get the phone call in, and that's at no cost. And let's just see if we can help you strap on that pair of wings. Let's go look and see if I've got the set you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be my promotional, is just feel free to reach out and set up you can actually book right through my website, which is jamielightner.com. Right there. So that's pretty easy. Or you can contact me through any of the other sites as well.
Okay.
And speaking of Take a Breath, I do have a monthly email series that is titled Take a Breath. And it's meant to give you bits of encouragement if you only have 2 minutes, or there's other stuff there if you want to go on further. But it's about pausing. It's about pausing and remembering who we are and choosing to operate from that.
That sounds great. That really sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being here with me, Jamie. I really appreciate this conversation, and you're taking your time out from your vacation, your family vacation, to meet with me today. Really means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of
Sure.
fun. It was
Sure.
great to talk to you.
Thank you. Same here.